Today, we're going on an incredible journey, tracing the path of one of the most remarkable and, frankly, complicated structures in the entire human body, the facial nerve. Have you ever really stopped to think about it? How you can flash a smile, raise an eyebrow in surprise, or even have a single tear well up in your eye? What's actually pulling the strings behind the scenes?
Well, it turns out it's all the work of one superstar nerve, the seventh cranial nerve, better known as the facial nerve. It's the unsung hero of all human expression, and we're about to follow its entire mind-boggling journey from deep inside your brain all the way to your face.
So what's the big deal about this nerve? Well, for starters, it's what we call a mixed nerve. Now that doesn't just mean it's got a lot to do. It means it's more like a master cable, bundled with different colored wires, each one carrying signals for a completely different job. This nerve is the ultimate multitasker, juggling 4 distinct jobs all at once. The biggest slice of the pie, its motor function, is what moves all the muscles you use for facial expressions. Then you've got its parasympathetic fibers. They handle the automatic stuff, like telling your glands to make tears or saliva. It's also carrying special sensory information for taste from the front of your tongue. And, just to round things out, it has a small sensory job, handling feeling from a little part of your ear.
All right, our journey begins deep inside the brainstem. You can think of this as the control center, where these little clusters of neurons, called nuclei, act as command hubs for each of the nerve's different functions.
Yep, each of the nerve's 4 jobs has its own little mission control. Each one is in charge of sending or receiving a very specific type of signal. Let's take a quick look at what each one is up to.
First up, the big one, the motor nucleus. This is the engine room, the powerhouse. It's blasting out all the signals that make your muscles contract for smiling, frowning, winking, basically every single expression you can possibly make. Next, we've got the superior salivatory nucleus. Think of this as your body's automatic irrigation system. It's running the parasympathetic show that makes you cry when you're sad, or makes your mouth water when you smell pizza. And of course, the taste center. The nucleus of Tractus solitaris is the receiving dock for all the delicious taste information coming from the front part of your tongue. That sweet, salty, or sour sensation you just had, its journey ended right here.
Okay, so all these different nerve fibers have their marching orders. Now they all bundle together to begin one of the most treacherous journeys of any nerve in the body, a long, winding trip through solid bone.
This nerve has to run a gauntlet through the facial canal, which is this super narrow tunnel inside your temporal bone. And as you can see, it is not a straight shot. It's a bony maze with sharp turns and tight squeezes. Honestly, this long, complicated journey is exactly what makes the facial nerve so fragile and vulnerable to problems.
Now you'd think the nerve is just trying to get from point A to B as fast as possible, right? Wrong. It's actually working the entire time it's inside that bony canal. Along the way, it sends off several critical branches to take care of some very important side quests.
This is where you really see its multitasking genius. Before it even gets close to the face, it sends out the greater petrosal nerve to get your tear gland working. Then a tiny little branch goes to the stapedius muscle in your ear to protect your hearing from loud noises. And then the chorda tympani nerve peels off to carry taste signals from the tongue and trigger salivation. Incredible, right? So, after navigating that bony maze and sending off all those important branches, the main trunk of the nerve finally makes it through the skull. It emerges ready for the main event, taking control of every muscle of facial expression. The second it pops out of a tiny hole in the skull, it dives right into the parotid gland. That's your biggest salivary gland, right there in front of your ear. And inside the gland, it just explodes into branches, fanning out like the fingers of a hand to cover the entire side of your face. And these are the 5 final branches that do all the work we actually see. The temporal branch, that's what lets you raise your eyebrows. The zygomatic is for closing your eye tightly. The buccal controls your cheeks when you smile or puff them out. The marginal mandibular pulls down the corner of your mouth. And the cervical, that tightens the skin on your neck. So, now that we've traced this ridiculously complex path, you can probably start to see why it's so important in medicine. With all those twists and turns in a tight bony space, what happens when the signal fails? What happens when this delicate nerve gets damaged? Well, this is a really critical distinction for doctors. If the problem is up in the brain, like from a stroke, we call that an upper motor neuron lesion. And what's wild is that the forehead is often spared. Why? Because the part of the command center for the forehead gets a signal from both sides of the brain. It's like a built-in backup system.
But if the nerve itself gets damaged after it leaves the brainstem, like with Bell's palsy, that's a lower motor neuron lesion. There's no backup, the final pathway is cut, and the entire side of the face goes limp.
And that vulnerability isn't just some interesting factoid. Its long, winding path through that tight, bony canal makes it, unfortunately, the most frequently paralyzed nerve in the entire body. This quote really drives home just how delicate this incredibly powerful system truly is.
So, from a simple smile to the sweet taste of sugar on your tongue, the facial nerve is an absolute masterpiece of biological engineering. Its journey shows us just how incredibly complex and interconnected our bodies are. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other invisible, amazing systems are running the whole show inside you, right this very second, without you even noticing?